Thank you, Louise. Well, Oulton Park's one of the best circuits in the country, whatever the conditions, and that just adds another little tricky element now that we've got this dampness and the decision-making that's going on down there on the grid.
Well, as Alan said, you'd never get a dull wet race, do you? And there's been a lot of indecision on the grid about what tyres to go for. Most have opted finally to go with full wets. I believe Andrew Jordan just has slicks on the front, wets on the rear. But don't discount the BMWs. I mean, Rob Collard's starting down in 14th. He'll be trying to make at least 10 places on the start.
That's going to be interesting, and they've got a different first gear this weekend, which should get them off the line well, but rear-wheel drive traction should help too.
It should, but also the difference between turbocharged and non-turbocharged cars in the wet is very different. And Jason Plato in the wet, his car has more control, more throttle control. It's harder for the turbocharged cars to control their grip and traction because of the turbo boost coming in. So we could be in for a classic race here.
I'm really looking forward to this one, I have to say. First race of the day here at Oulton Park is the first touring car race, and you've got the two Hondas on the front row. It's Gordon Shedden, not carrying so much ballast. He's got the 9 kilos on board, and championship leader alongside him, Matt Neal, of course, carrying maximum ballast. In the dry yesterday they were fast. Can they do that in the wet now? Andy Neat, the star of qualifying, as we saw from the qualifying report earlier on. Brilliant performance from him. We gather that there are slicks on the front of James Nash's car as well as Andrew Jordan, so that's interesting. Two of the Vauxhall Vectras with the turbo engines are going for the slicks on the front.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally the Vauxhall's been quite heavy on its tyres, but maybe they feel they can get those slicks up to working temperature. It is still slightly drizzling, but there's absolutely no wind, so there's nothing really dispersing the weather that's around at the moment. So you almost have to go with what it's doing at the moment, but I don't see the track drying back that quickly. Tom Boardman, I understand, has gone for slicks all round. That's a huge call, but the people further back on the grid can make these decisions. They can go for something different to the guys at the front and hope that works out in their favour. They're rolling the dice, they're playing the gambling game.
They are, so we'll see whether that works for Tom Boardman. Very, very interesting. And Matt Jackson, there we are. We think that he's on wets on the front, but we'll have to wait and see. Boardman definitely slicks all round, as we've just had confirmation from the grid of that one. So really interesting situation. Jackson's further down on the grid than you might have expected. He only qualified 10th, but he's second in the championship, remember. So a bit of work to be done for Matt Jackson. He has scored points at every round this year.
Yeah, Chilton's pulled off the grid.
What's that about? So must have a technical problem. That's not a tyre-related thing.
Yeah, it looks like the engine's running, though. There's some exhaust smoke coming out. So I don't know whether... Well, I've no idea what that is. It's strange for him to pull off the grid, though, unless he was pushed off the grid by the marshals, who have now moved out of the way for the formation lap. But
being told it's some sort of brake issue, but that could only have come from doing the out lap coming out of the pits.
Yeah, they had 2 laps, don't forget, because of the difference in conditions from qualifying being dry to it now being wet. But he's actually in quite a dangerous place there, because there are a lot of cars still behind him, and it's a narrow start line, and we've had accidents here before, and obviously there's no room now to run down the grass if somebody needed it. But that's a disaster for Tom Chilton in what's already been a not very good weekend for him so far, out-qualified by his teammate Andy Neat. Take nothing away from Andy Neat, fantastic performance, but Tom really not having a good weekend.
So let's take a look at the grid lineup in detail now. Then it is Gordon Shedden on pole, as he was at Thruxton. Matt Neal, his teammate, is alongside. There's Andy Neat and Jason Plato threatening from 4th in these conditions. Andrew Jordan, he's on the 3rd row with Tom Chilton. That was a late run from Jordan to move up to that 3rd row. Alex McDowell's on row 4 in a repaired Chevrolet. Got quite battered yesterday. Paul O'Neill's next door to him. Then James Nash and Matt Jackson, 2 hard racers on row 5. Row 6, Jeff Smith in the 2nd Pertec car, and Tom Boardman trying on slicks. Tony Gillam and Rob Collard in the first of the BMWs there. Collard, row number 7. Then Liam Griffin, who's had a new engine overnight. Dave Newsham in a Seat for the first time this year. He's on row 8. Row 9, we've got John George and Frank Rathel in the Dynojet Toyota. Nick Foster in his BMW's on row 10. Tom Onslow Cole in the Golf, quite a long way down. Good to see Lee Wood back in the series this weekend. Rob Austin is next door in the Audi A4. And then towards the back, we've got Chris James and Tony Hughes. So that's the lineup for these guys. So we see Chilton being pushed in, so they've got that car out of the way, which is good news, and at least it's not going to cause a problem at the start.
No, and he clearly hasn't got any brakes. Look, they're trying to stop the car rolling down the pit lane, so he really has obviously got a serious brake problem there.
So let's see if we can get a very quick word with Matt Neal. He's starting up on the front row of the grid. Matt, I don't know if you can hear me. This is Ben in the commentary box. Well, what do you make of the conditions? Have you chosen the right tyres?
Who knows, Ben? It's we got 6 or half a dozen on the grid, so we'll soon find out, eh?
We will indeed. Best of luck. So there's Matt, still calculating, still wondering if he's made that right choice, Tim, and it's a hard one to call, isn't it, because the trees affect things quite badly here. It doesn't dry the tarmac so well up in that section around Druids.
But it's all round the circuit, as we said, because there's so little breeze. But it's so difficult to predict how much the cars running around the circuit are going to dry online. But if you're starting at the front, you've really got to go with the safer option. It's those behind that are taking the risks, and we'll see if it pays off. Matt Jackson, I know, went to the grid with slicks on the front, but whether he stayed on that or not, I don't know. But there are patches of dry on the circuit, definitely. But the crowd has still got the umbrellas. I can still see it drizzling, and the general rule of thumb is to go with what it's doing at the moment, and it is still raining now.
Well, let's see what happens then as we get ready for the first race of the day here. It's round 10 of the Dunlop MSA British Touring Car Championship from the beautiful Oulton Park circuit. Honda dominating the front row in qualifying. We've got a gap where Tom Chilton should have been. We know that he's in the pits. He's not going to play any part in this race. Air temperature only 12 degrees, so will it dry up after the overnight rain and the slight drizzle we have now? Lights out, away we go, and look at them scrabbling for grip, trying to get off the line. Shedden is away from pole, but Matt Neal's made a really good start on the outside. Matt Neal trying to go around the outside. He's done it. He's into the lead through the first corner at Old Hall. The BMW's trying to use their rear-wheel drive advantage at the start as everybody, Dave Newsham runs wide. I spoke a bit soon, but he's getting back on, and no other problems, I think, as he rejoins in front of Lee Wood.
Yeah, but the actions carry on down into Cascades. They're all safely through at the front. I thought the turbocharged cars might struggle to get their cars off the line. As the boost came in, I thought it might spin the front wheels up and Jason would get a better start. But in fact, it's the front 3 turbos have all got away very well. This is on board with Paul O'Neill at the Island Hairpin.
That's right, he's in the Go Mobile Chevy, and he's dicing away with Alex McDowell, of course, and another Chevrolet Cruze. Up the hill they come. Matt Neal's made just a little bit of a break. Gordon Shedden is in second. It's Andy Neat, remember, in the Ford in third, keeping the reigning champion Jason Plato right behind him at the moment. And Plato just being a little cautious on this opening lap. He's not going on for a big attack. There is time. Oh, big slide for Lee Wood in the Honda Integra. He gathers it together pretty effectively, and he's battling there with Liam Griffin, and somebody else was off as well.
Yeah, I didn't see who that was, but Matt Neal, don't forget, he's carrying the championship leader's ballast of 45 kilos.
Chris James it was, who had an incident with someone else, I think.
Yeah, he's been off and has dropped the back. They're still going. But what I was going to say is the championship ballast of 45 kilos is not such a penalty in the wet. It doesn't have the same effect. And in fact, it's Shedden that's coming under pressure from Andy Neat.
Yeah, look at Jason Plato tucked in behind them as well. So Honda of Gordon Shedden struggling a little bit. Andy Neat in the Ford driving brilliantly here, and Jason Plato right behind him. Then Alex McDowell into the pits. Was that O'Neill? Somebody was coming into the pits, and I think it was Paul O'Neill.
Down the inside, Andy Neat. Yeah, Andy Neat is passing Shedden.
That's fantastic.
Oh, that's
Andy Neat into second place, would you believe it? But now Shedden's trying to come back at him. There's the race leader, Matt Neal. Shedden's back into second. It was a drive-through penalty for Paul O'Neill, and he's taken it early, and Jason Plato still chasing Andy Neat. Oh, Tom Chilton's rejoined. Tom Chilton has been able to start this race.
Well, crumbs, if considering they pushed a car in with no brakes at all, they've done a remarkably quick fix as Andy Neat is pushing Shedden up to the hairpin. I do wonder, is Shedden on slick fronts maybe and can't get them to work at the moment? I don't know.
Yes, we gather that he did switch. He was on wets till the last moment and he switched to slicks. So you're absolutely spot on, Tim, well spotted. And and Jordan's off. Jordan's in the barrier down at Island Hairpin, and he's got it going. There's another car. Is that Jackson? I think it might be. Let's take a look here and find out what happened. On board with Andrew Jordan into the Island Hairpin.
Well, he locked the fronts up. You heard the engine revs absolutely die, and he locked the front up. Whether he was getting pushed from behind or not, I don't know. We just saw Matt Jackson just seemingly pull off, but you could hear the engine revs cut as the front wheels locked. Front-wheel drive car obviously locked the front brakes, and you also stall the engine.
So we gather Tom Chilton's problem with his brakes, they were actually jammed on. So once they got them released, they could send him on his way.
Well, he needs to be careful just to make sure it's okay. Plato's looking up the inside. And interesting on this lap, Shedden has pulled away a little bit. And in fact, he's now starting to gain on Matt Neal. So it looks like those first initial laps were Shedden trying to get some temperature. Here we see the start. The front three cars, in fact, and Plato, all get away very evenly. It's Matt Neal who gets a slightly better start. Further back, that looks like
Jeff Smith didn't get
Jeff
going
Smith
at all.
didn't get going in the 888 Vectra. But, well, we're going to have to watch Shedden now, because if he's got some temperature into those front slicks already, he's going to be going quickly.
But there might be more rain around looking at that camera, so that might not help him at all. Andy Neat still under pressure from Jason Plato. Matt Neal leads this race, remember, as he tries to draw away in the Honda. Then you've got another Honda in second. Here comes Plato, a little bit of contact on the back of Andy Neat. Gets it sideways, but Andy sorted it out. Alex McDowell's joining in behind as well, and Andy Neat managed to gather that together very effectively.
Yeah, there's three, we believe, on wets all round. But look at Shedden, he's really getting going now. He's catching up with Matt Neal, and this should only go one way, at least at the moment, if Shedden's got the temperature into those front slicks.
Yeah, well, if they've split the decision, it's probably a good call by Honda, because they're always then guaranteed of at least one of them doing well up the hill. Matt Neal definitely under pressure from Gordon Shedden as they come up, and Andy Neat now also under pressure from Jason Plato. This is for third place, remember. Alex McDowell's behind them, and don't forget that Collard is actually running in 6th, and he qualified all the way down in 14th in the BMW. Rob Collard currently running in 6th. Onslow Cole has come from absolutely nowhere to be running 7th. Nash is in 8th. Plato's still having a little look here, and Lee Wood, would you believe, is running in 9th place with Liam Griffin in 10th. There's been a real change around from the starting positions.
Yeah, well, I don't know what tyres Rob Collard is on. I've absolutely no idea, but we'll see his progress. You can see in the back car there in that group, BMW coming into the shot, and on that lap, in fact, it was Shedden that set the fastest lap, so Shedden is now the quickest car on the circuit.
Yeah, and you can see how he's closed up. Another look at what happened to Jordan. Oh no, that was O'Neill, another separate incident. That was O'Neill. Jackson going very slowly. I don't know what happened to Jackson there.
No, looked like he was pulling off, wasn't he?
And we just got a new fastest lap for Nick Foster in the BMW. Meanwhile, Shedden's challenging for the lead, and Shedden has taken the lead from Matt Neal. The two teammates swap around, and the slicks do seem to be working. Those guys that have got slicks on the front are working. I wonder what Nick Foster is on in his BMW, though, because the guy who's certainly new to British touring cars has just set fastest lap. Look at Plato, he's got up into third place now. Plato is third, Andy Neat fourth, McDowell in fifth.
Yeah, well, the BMWs, this is just Plato up against Neat again. Let's just watch this, up at the hairpin. Plato cuts back inside and gets a really good exit. Just had superior grip and traction there. Yeah, I mean, the BMWs, one thing they can't do is swap the different tyres on the axles. They can't run slicks on one side and wets on the other. So he must be on slicks all round, I can only assume that.
Collard is closing up to this little battle for fourth place as it is now between Andy Neat, Alex McDowell, who's moving one way, then the other in the second of the Silver Line Chevrolets. But Andy Neat in the white and blue Ford is fending him off for the moment. This is certainly the best weekend we've seen from Andy Neat in British touring cars to date. That excellent qualifying performance. But watch Plato, he's getting close to Matt Neal, and that's for second place. The two great rivals, they've each had 3 wins apiece so far this year, and Plato's having a little look down the inside. Matt Neal stays out wide, looking for more traction on that outer line through Old Hall.
Yeah, that we know these guys are both on wets, but it seems like Jason has better pace at the moment. Certainly, we saw great traction off the island hairpin. See what he can do to Matt Neal.
See the treaded tyre being used in these wet conditions on the onboard camera there on Jason Plato's car. Matt Neal going very defensive on the inside line down towards the island hairpin. Plato certainly getting as close as possible, but not actually leaning on his great rival. Out of the corner, looking for the traction here, which was where he was so effective on getting past Andy Neat, but he hasn't quite got the overlap here.
No, he hasn't got the same ability to dive inside here on the traction, but he's having a go on the brakes. He's up the inside.
He's done it, he's through. Plato's taken Matt Neal, and Matt Neal could do nothing about it. That Chevy on its wet is working well in these conditions, but does it have any answer for Gordon Shedden, who's leading by 1.9 seconds more than that, in fact, already on his slick tyres on the front and wets on the rear.
No, I think, we've got another island incident with Andrew Jordan.
So that was Chris James involved with Andrew Jordan. I don't quite know what happened there, but Andrew Jordan's having a pretty miserable time of it, and so he's down towards the back of the field. A fastest lap this time for Jeff Smith on this lap. So we're seeing all sorts of unusual people getting fastest laps at the moment. Up front, though, it's Gordon Shedden that leads this race and is extending his lead a little bit over Jason Plato, who's now in second. Then Matt Neal, who's under lots of pressure here from McDowell. So it's Andy Neate who's dropped back a little bit. Meanwhile, I can tell you Matt Jackson is in the pits and his car is being pushed away, and this could be the first race of the year that Matt Jackson has failed to score any points. McDowell determined now to continue to move up the order here. He's trying to get past Matt Neal.
Yeah, well, he's seen his teammate pass Matt Neal, but McDowell's got to be a little bit careful. He's had a couple of incidents this year that have resulted in points on his licence, so he has got to be a little bit careful now.
Yeah, he does. You want to keep it clean. He's down the outside. Very difficult, though, to go around the outside of the island hairpin. Matt Neal with the inner line will sort of control things there. It's about the power out of the corner, and not much to choose between them, despite the turbo power of the Honda and the normally aspirated blue Chevrolet. There's really very little to choose between them. It's much more about getting the traction there, isn't it?
Yeah, this time Matt Neal pulled across to the inside to cover that line, so he's going to defend that position.
Collard's got past Neate as well behind them, so Collard is now up to 5th. Andy Neate still, okay, he's in 6th place. Tom Onslow Cole is in 7th in the Golf, which is absolutely fabulous considering he started, I think, in 20th place. So what a first couple of laps it was from him. Lee Wood is still in the points in 8th place on his return to British touring cars. James Nash in 9th and Liam Griffin in 10th. And we gather there was some sort of oil problem for Matt Jackson that has put him out of the race. As again, Alex McDowell in the blue Chevrolet has a think about passing Matt Neal, the championship leader, but it doesn't happen. And Neal carrying that maximum ballast, of course. As the track dries out, perhaps that'll have more of a bearing.
Well, it could mean that he works his front tyres a little bit harder and overheats them. And yes, as the track dries, that ballast has more effect on acceleration and slowing down. But I mean, McDowell is so close to the back of him, all over the place, almost too close to actually carry inertia into an overtaking manoeuvre. But he's got to commit himself at some point, because Collard is catching them very, very quickly.
Yes, that's right. Rob Collard in the BMW. Plato was actually fastest on that last lap, interestingly. A fraction quicker even than Gordon Shedden. But it's Matt Neal here who's struggling somewhat. Alex McDowell, the youngster right behind him. Then the wily Rob Collard, who really knows a thing or two about overtaking. Bit of bumping there. McDowell's got the inner line this time. And in fact, Matt Neal is in danger of losing 2 places in one go here, because Collard is following the Chevrolet of McDowell. He's going to have the inside line into the Knickerbrook chicane. And Matt Neal does lose both places. McDowell moves up into 3rd and Collard's into 4th.
Yeah, that was good racing, good tight racing, and Collard was absolutely read that one perfectly to stay right on the tail of McDowell and ease himself through. Matt Neal has obviously decided that he hasn't got the car and the pace to win this race, so he needs to just take the points that he can.
John George off, that's down at the cut-through, I think, so that's not a big problem. It's not in the middle of the circuit, don't worry, that's part of the circuit they don't use, so it's not as dangerous a situation as you might think. Marshals can be out there to attend. So Gordon Shedden still leading this race. Be interesting lap here on the lap times to see whether Plato has closed the gap at all. Andy Neate still down in 6th place. Shedden 3 seconds ahead of Plato, so Shedden's reclaimed fastest lap on that last lap. So again, it does seem as though Shedden's got this one under control at the moment, depending on what happens. Collard is still going well. He's running in 4th place in the BMW, and this is much more like what we'd expect to see from Collard, who's had a pretty difficult season so far.
Yeah, well, the BMW is much lighter on its tyres. It has a more even wear on the tyres, front and rear. That's why it usually takes a little bit more time to get the tyres up to temperature in the dry. But obviously the benefit of that is in the wet. It actually doesn't work them so hard. So certainly later in the race, if the turbo cars work their tyres too hard, then he could still be in contention.
Now, Boardman, we know, is on slicks all round. Where's he? He's in 14th place. He's got Jordan behind him, who's on slicks on the front, wets on the rear. And it looks as though Boardman now, what are his lap times like, Tim?
He's a couple of seconds off the front runners, but in the first couple of laps he was losing 10 seconds a lap.
Right.
So he's got a lot to catch up on, but his race will only get better and the others will get worse. In fact, although it's drying out for the leaders with a combined slick front and wet rear, it actually gets worse because they get too much grip at the front and the rear will start skating around like it's on casters.
Yes, I remember we've seen that before. It gets very, very exciting to watch. So that could be the problem for Gordon Shedden. But Tom Boardman here on slicks, now beginning to show some better pace, but he is down in 14th position and he's got a lot of work to do to try and close up to the leaders. So back with Matt Neal, who he himself is now under pressure from Andy Neat in the Ford. But Andy, well, can he try and find a way past the man who's leading the championship? This is going to be a bit of an education class for Andy Neat. He'll enjoy being up there amongst the regular front runners, though, and still looking at a pretty decent result. Andy's not actually scored any points at all so far this year, and I'm sure that's what he'll be focused on, as well as trying to get past Matt Neal.
Yeah, good pun, focused on it, and
yep.
I like that. Yeah, he will. I mean, it's great to see him up the sharp end, enjoying his racing. You know, we have to remember poor Andy was really badly hurt 2 years ago in that accident at Silverstone and has spent 2 years getting back.
Lee Wood under pressure from James Nash there. Lee Wood losing 7th place, but it's great to see James Nash has got past it. Lee Wood in the red and blue Honda Integra. Lovely to see him back out this weekend, Tim, and actually having a good old run in the top 10.
Yeah, a really enthusiastic team, great bunch of guys, working hard, all good friends, and you know that's the way to go racing. And Lee is a great driver, we know that. We still know that Integra is a great car.
Yeah,
but James Nash, we know, is on slicks, and so that's why he's coming into his own now. You can see just in the attitude of that Vectra, it's quite pointy, it's quite sort of almost unstable already in the braking area. That's just because he's already got a lot of grip at the front and the rears are starting to become a bit jelly-like.
Yeah, and Shedden may well have that problem soon as well, but Plato holding on well with his wets all round in 2nd place, looking after his tyres. Still 3rd for McDowell, 4th for Collard, 5th. There is a big question mark because it could well be Andy Neat who's having a go at getting past championship leader Matt Neal. Matt Neal closes the door on him though, and there's no way through. You're on board with Matt, looking right back at the global Focus, the new Ford Focus, of course, that Andy Neat is at the wheel of. They had the problem on the other car of Tom Chilton, but Andy's representing the mark well. Behind them though, not too far behind them now, is James Nash, and Nash, as we've seen, is going very quickly in the black Vauxhall. Man who led the championship after Donington's currently the 3rd of the points, and he gained about 3 car lengths just through one corner there.
Yeah, well, that's the difference. He's got all the braking ability from the front. The grip at the front is really helping him. It's only in the fast corners. Look how much grip he's got there. Massive amount of grip. I mean, he should steam passes. He was over 2 seconds a lap quicker on the last lap. But just watch the Vectra on the brakes here. It gets a little bit snaky, All he's got to do is be patient, James. Just cut back inside, use your superior grip. Oh, he's going to go around the outside. He's going to go the hard way. Well, that wasn't quite the way to do it. But look how much power he can put down on the ground. He's already overlapped.
Yeah, he's already got the run alongside the Ford by the looks of things. And there's not much Andy can do to fight that because there's just superior grip on the Vauxhall there with those slicks on the front, and he's gained another place. So Andy Neat drops further behind Matt Neal, and Matt Neal surely now is just a sitting target for James, who bounces over the curb a little bit.
Yeah, he's using that dry line even in the wet, but I mean, the Vectra is a great car in these conditions. It's quite long wheelbase, so in fact the split of tyres front to rear doesn't have quite such the same effect it does on a short wheelbase car in terms of making it twitchy. But I mean, it's just this, you know, Matt Neal's just a sitting duck against this.
Yeah, nothing he can do. James Nash draws alongside. He'll be able to brake later as well, so it's a very straightforward pass for Nash in the Vauxhall, and that brings him up to 5th place now, I believe. Yeah, 5th place for James Nash, so big improvement, and he's still got the opportunity perhaps to chase after Rob Collard and Alex McDowell, although they're several seconds up the road. He is lapping very quickly though. Tony Gillam has just set a quick lap. His teammate in the other 888 Vauxhall has just set fastest lap last time around, but there is that's Liam Griffin, isn't it?
That's Liam Griffin, yeah. He's got damage on both sides of the car there.
Yeah.
It was Liam Griffin that caused that's at Lodge. He's gone on straight on at Lodge, I think. Watch him come into shot, top left. Yeah, he's out-braked himself, comes into the shot, managed to keep the car going, and just a kiss on the tyres. Oh, well done, he kept that going. But yeah, you can see damage on the driver's side door as well there. So that's 2 new doors the Motorbase team will have to find, in addition to the 2 front ends they had to replace after qualifying, because it was Liam's oil that was dropped that actually caused Matt Jackson to go off as well. So the Motorbase team will work until after midnight to change engines and rebuild the front end of both of those cars last night.
Yeah, busy time for them. You're looking at Alex McDowell. He still sits in 3rd place, which would be a good result, match his best result of the season so far if he can hang on to that. Gordon Shedden.
Chris James's car just pulled off there between Druids and Lodge, so yellow flags in that section.
Yeah, so no overtaking into Lodge, but Chris James pulled the car off to a pretty safe place there. Another interesting name on the fastest lap list is Dave Newsham. I don't think I've seen so many different people having fastest lap in a race before. So Newsham, there's Lee Wood now beginning to line up to try and pass Andy Neate. Andy Neate closes the door, and Nick Foster joining into that, and the other BMW. Nick might have a chance to get both of them here if he's careful.
You know, I believe Nick actually set the fast lap earlier. I believe he is on full wets, but certainly got good pace at this stage. And not surprised to see Dave Newsham set the fastest lap. He's obviously teammates with Tom Boardman now, so I'm assuming they probably both started on slicks.
Yes, that would make sense. Boardman, by the way, has moved up one to 13th place now, and he's getting a little closer. Down the inside goes Nick Foster, trying to get past Andy. There's a little bit of rubbing, and it's cleanly through, and Lee Wood's going to take full advantage, and he does. So Andy Neate loses the other place as well, and Lee Wood's going to try and get his position back from Nick Foster. This is good stuff from some of the less experienced. Foster slides in a bit. That was clever from Lee Wood. He gave him space, but now he's been squeezed right out. It's turning into a real war between these 3.
This is a great battle, absolutely fantastic. They're really fighting it out over 8th place here, and they're catching up towards Matt Neal.
Yeah, they are. Matt, again, is really struggling with his car on the full wets, and he doesn't seem to be able to maintain the pace. And these guys, there's Nick Foster, who's relishing this opportunity in the BMW. His teammate, of course, Rob Pollard, is currently in 4th, but Nick Foster has every opportunity here of moving into the top 6 if he can find a way past Matt Neal, and that would be by far his best result in what is still his 1st season of British touring cars, and it's good to see Lee Wood staying with him though.
Yeah, they're all together. I mean, let's see if Nick can get up the inside of Matt Neal. Is he brave enough to chuck it up the inside? It's slightly damper there. No, Matt Neal brakes quite late and holds the car in. Wants the traction light coming off Lodge. It's pretty equal, actually, between all of them. Yeah,
up the hill they come across the line. So the laps are gradually ticking away now. That's 12 laps completed. We're on to lap 13 out of 15. And Nick Foster having the race of his life so far in British touring cars. The 45-year-old businessman really enjoying his racing and getting a chance to mix it with some of the star names, and that's what it's all about. And he's having a look down the inside, and he's straight through on the inside. Well, he'll remember that one. He'll be playing that footage back to his family and friends for years to come.
Yeah, and it's a great place to pass there, because you just throw the car up the inside. It's a fantastic, great place to pass. Really feels satisfied. But he's under pressure from Lee Wood. He's not giving up the ghost, because he got past Matt Neal as well.
Lee seems to have a pretty neat line out of it, using the grass out of the head and still managing to get the grip. Look at them fanning their way out over Hilltop. Andy Neate's still behind them. Jeff Smith, who stalled on the line, is behind them in 10th place, and we think he's probably got slicks on the front as well, so his car's working effectively. But Nick Foster's got to the front of this little queue, and he's driving absolutely beautifully at the moment, chased by Lee Wood, who didn't score, I don't think he scored any points at all last year, Lee, and he's got a chance of scoring first time out. Matt Jackson back out on the track.
Now it looks like he's dripping some fluid as well. Something coming out of that car. Look, that's not what we want. Let's hope that's not oil. Pull it off. Stop, pull it off. If you're on the radio watching Dave Bartram, tell him to pull that car off the track.
That could make life very interesting under braking into Knickerbrook if there's oil down there, couldn't it? Oh, meanwhile, Matt Neal's being squeezed out there by Andy Neate, who's coming back at him again. These two still on their wet tyres, which have lost grip, but behind them, the Pertain Vauxhall we think is on slicks on the front, so it's going to have more grip than the two of them. So we're on to lap 14 out of 15. Next time round, on to the final lap, and it's all still going off here. Remember, Gordon Shedden still leads this race, though. Plato is currently 2nd, and McDowell is 3rd.
Yeah, and Tom Boardman's been the fastest man on the track the last 2 laps, but there you see it. But it's 1:31. The leaders, by comparison, doing 1:36s, so he's 5 seconds lap quicker, but it's too little, too late. He's down in 12th position. Now let's see what happens coming out of here. We think there may be oil down.
Yeah, that's right. This is the area. Oh, now sliding wide out Andy Neat. That's given Matt Neal the chance to reclaim that place. This is where the oil went down from Matt Jackson's car, and it could be very tricky under brake. Look, you can see a bit of a line of oil there, so this could make life very, very interesting. Who's going to slide or who's going to hold it? Nick Foster's through, Lee Wood gets it through there. Actually, no one seems to get into too much trouble, and they should be all right because that car of Jackson's is pulled off to the side of the road down there. There shouldn't be any oil on this next section.
No, it'll be all right now, but that was good marshalling.
Look at Boardman.
Boardman has caught this group. I tell you, he could get past all of these cars. He's 5 seconds a lap quicker.
Yeah, the black car on the back of the group, the Seat of Boardman, who took his first ever podium finish last time out at Thruxton. He's got to the back of this little group now. He's on slicks all round, and he's flying. Look at him moving one side to the other. He's trying to get past Jeff Smith, as up ahead still Nick Foster and Lee Wood are having a wonderful dice. Boardman now to the outside in the black Seat. Watch him try and cut back to the inside on the exit of the corner and use the turbo power that Jeff Smith's going to try and protect, and Andy Neat still trying to hold on as well. This is going to be very exciting. On to the final lap they go. This little group battling for points here, just in the top 10. He's got past Jeff Smith. How many more can he get? He's surely going to get Andy Neat. Yep, does that on the next corner.
No, I think they're both going to go through there. They've both got slicks at least on the front, but Boardman absolutely flying at the moment.
Yeah, he is flying. He's got Matt Neal to try and get past. Meanwhile, Jeff Smith desperately trying to get past Andy Neat, and he knows it's all. They made contact there. Andy Neat trying to lean on him. He knows it's the last. Oh, what a... Off goes Jeff Smith. Jeff Smith gets it. He's going to rejoin in front of them. Oh, he takes out Tom Boardman. Oh, that is such a shame. Jeff Smith getting turned around and into Tom Boardman, who was completely innocent turning through the hairpin. Looking at the leader now, it is Gordon Shedden who's coming through the final section of the track. It's Shedden who is going to take his second victory of the season. A beautifully driven, and what a judgment to put the slicks on at the start. He comes through. You know what? It's his fourth win in 6 years at Oulton Park. He loves this place. Shedden takes victory, and we're going to see Jason Plato come through in second place. A good second, 3.6 seconds behind, and his teammate Alex McDowell for Silverline Chevrolet finishes in third. Fourth place will go to James Nash. Now, Nick Foster and Lee Wood are still racing hard here for position inside the top 10. In fact, they're battling over 6th place. What a result. Best result ever for both these guys. And I think it's going to be Foster who holds on to 6th behind teammate Collard, who finished in 5th. But Lee Wood gets points on his return to the championship. That's a brilliant story in the old Integra, but what a car that is. It always delivers. Matt Neal held on to finish in 8th place. Andy Neat was 9th, and Andrew Jordan was 10th.
Wow, what a race. What a fantastic race. That was a scary accident with Jeff Smith, though, and what a shame for Tom Boardman. He's always there. He is. He's out of the car and he's all right, and that's good because that car arrived in his driver's door. And it starts off here back at Cascades with Andy Neat and Jeff Smith. Jeff Smith cuts to the inside, uses the tyre grip at the front to get alongside. There's a little rub there, and then they seem to separate, and all looks fine. And then Jeff Smith moves back across. I mean, Andy Neat's on the right-hand side of the track. There's nothing he could do. And then you watch, the car just can't stop on the wet. I knew something was coming here. I was petrified of it going away, and bang, right into the driver's side door. Look at the damage on Boardman's car. I was worried for Boardman because that's the driver's side, but I'm glad to see him. Oh, actually, he's on the other side. He's on the other side. He's okay, but the disappointment after a brilliant drive, well, it's just written all over his body actions.
It certainly looked, as you say, as though Jeff Smith squeezed over on Andy Neat, didn't it, as they went down towards the hairpin.
And he didn't need to because he was on the left. I mean, Andy Neat was on the right-hand edge of the track, driving along the edge of the track, and you never want to squeeze a car in a front-wheel drive car if you're not completely past. We've seen it so many times. So fortunate that they all get away with that, and I just hope the special tuning crew can fix Boardman's car for the next race.
Well, we thought the damp conditions would make life exciting, and they certainly did, although Shedden had that one under control from a pretty early stage. Great call, great decision from him to put the slicks on the front, and he held on well for victory there. And his teammate, Matt Neal, he had to fight, and he's only finished down in 8th place. But as a team, of course, they did the right thing. They mixed their strategy.
Yeah, although ironically, actually, it would obviously have suited them to have had slicks on Matt's, but we heard it. It was Matt's call. He's the most experienced man out on the grid, and he called for the slicks, for the wet tyres. I mean, had he called for slicks, he'd have actually handled that weight of the extra ballast much better, I think, and clearly got a better result. Shedden made his own call and made it work for it.
Can we learn anything from the fact that the turbo cars that went for wets on the front really seemed to struggle towards the end of the race, whereas perhaps the normally aspirated cars of Plato McDowell that went for wets on the front, they didn't seem to struggle?
Yeah, that was across the board, wasn't it? Because the naturally aspirated cars of the BMWs as well as the Chevys, all naturally aspirated on wet tyres, they lasted the distance better. So it clearly shows that wets on the front of a turbocharged car go off much quicker.
So everybody learning today already, and it's the first real wet race we've had, or damp race we've had, with this sort of contrast of turbocharged cars and normally aspirated cars. But Gordon Shedden has certainly delivered here today after winning at Thruxton at the last event. He's now come through to win here at Oulton, and as I say, he has an absolutely brilliant record of winning races here at Oulton Park. There's the damage. Let's take a look at the result then. Shedden the winner by 3.6 seconds over the two Silverline Chevys of Plato and McDowell. Nash a fine fourth coming up the order towards the end there. Collard a good fifth. He'll be pleased with that, I think. And his teammate Nick Foster an excellent sixth. He's got him the points, as has Lee Wood in the Central Group Racing Integra. An outstanding effort from them. Matt Neal finished in 8th place in the end. Andy Neate was 9th and Andrew Jordan finished in 10th. Outside the points, or in fact the other guys just outside were Onslow, Cole and Newsham. The points, seeing Matt Neal is still leading the championship. To James Nash has reclaimed second place. He's got up to 83 points. It's Matt Jackson's who's lost out there, failing to score, and he's gone from second to fourth. Jason Plato is now in fifth on 75.